Very good morning, children. L.K. Tripathi is here. Dear students, we shall start a new chapter, that is chapter 8, Colonial Education and its Impact. Let's get started. The kind of education that the British introduced in India was more in the interest of the British than really for the benefit of the Indians. Lord Thomas Macaulay once noted that we must do our best to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern, a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinion, in morals, and in intellect. What then do you think was the real purpose of the British in educating the Indians? This landmark statement is a part of the famous minutes on Indian education delivered by Thomas Babington Macaulay, the law member of the Governor General's Council in 1833. It is believed to have changed the British perception of education that was to be available to Indians at that time. In this chapter, we shall read in some detail how the kind of education system advocated by Macaulay and later introduced by the colonial government affected the Indian society, culture and worldview. Pre-colonial education. Prior to the arrival of the British in India, education was normally imparted by religious functionaries. Pathshalas manned by Pandits and Brahmins were there to impart elementary education to Hindu students, while tolls were for higher education. There was often no fixed school building. Teaching happened either under a tree or in a temple or in the teacher's house. There was no fixed fee and the entire community supported the teachers or paid their fees. The language of instruction was Sanskrit and education was restricted to only young men of the higher caste. Girls usually did not have access to any education. The subject matter law, religion, astronomy, logic, literature, and learning was based on traditional texts. Rote learning was preferred, and students were expected to memorize traditional knowledge and ancient scriptures. There were no printed textbooks. For Muslims, maktabs were for elementary education, while madrasas imparted higher education. The language of instruction was usually Persian or Arabic, and once again it was traditional knowledge that was made available to the students. Instruction began with the child writing the letters of the alphabet in sand. When his fingers were well trained, he began writing on a wooden slate smeared with rice paste and pulverized charcoal. Another variety of slate was made from cloth stiffened with rice, water, and covered with charcoals and several gums. A pencil made of white clay was used to write on these slates. The writing could be wiped off with a wet cloth. These were inexpensive materials made locally by the people's parents or neighbors or older playmates. After learning the letters, the people proceeded to learn consonants, vowel signs, the names of birds, trees, etc., and then began arithmetic phase starting from the counting of numbers, went up to fractions, measures of capacity, area, weight, and so on. Overall, it seems that there was a system of community-based elementary education system across India before the colonial period. Education in colonial period. The English East India Company did not take any interest in the education of Indians for the first 60 years of its stay in India. Initially, the focus of some of the British officers and scholars was on learning about the rich Indian literature, Sanskrit and Persian. Such officers were prompted by a desire to know the customs and habits of the people they were increasingly coming into contact with. During the course of their studies, many commented on the close similarity between Sanskrit and other European languages and the rich literary output of ancient India. Governor General Warren Hastings himself encouraged this trend, and it was given strong support by a young judge of the Supreme Court. Sir William Jones. Sir William was a linguist and took a keen interest in the study of Oriental languages. He studied Sanskrit language, grammar and poetry and Indian texts, Angla, philosophy, religion, etc. Warren Hastings established the Calcutta Madrasa in 1781 for the teaching and study of Muslim law and related subjects in Persian and Arabic, while William Jones set up the Asiatic Society of India in 1784 in Calcutta and started a journal called Asiatic Researches. These became the rallying point of all those who cultivated Oriental languages, cultures, and texts. This group of people was collectively known as the Orientalists. They were sentimentally attached to the Indian classical languages and culture and left the traditional system of education almost untouched. There were others like William Jones who shared his passion, culture, passion and interest in Oriental culture. Mention must be made of S.T. Colebrook, who wrote on the Vedas and compiled a book on Sanskrit grammar, and Nathaniel Halhed, who translated the Manu Smriti as the code of Hindu laws and also prepared a manual on Bengali grammar. They too believed that the study of ancient Indian texts was to be encouraged and other subjects that Indians were familiar with. In 1791, a college was set up in Banaras to study Sanskrit texts by Jonathan Duncan. In 1792, the Delhi Anglo-Oriental College was set up in Delhi as well. That's all. We shall discuss next in the next video. Till then, thank you.